What is your name?
My name is Michael Hodolishin.
And where were you born?
I was born in Ukraine,
What year?
1936.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have my oldest brother John, Steve, and Zygmunt, and Eugene.
And were you the oldest one or the youngest one?
I was the youngest.
And what about sisters? Did you have any sisters?
I have one sister named Mary.
And what about your parents? What were their names?
Who?
Your parents.
My parents, my dad was John, and my mom was Olena.
And where were they born?
They were born in Ukraine.
And what year were they born? Do you know?
1873, my dad, and 1896, my mom.
And what is your earliest memory of growing up in the Ukraine?
Well, my earliest, I was about 6 years old. I remember my parents, my brothers, and our little village, which was declared the prettiest village in Ukraine.
What was the name of the village?
Lyucha,
How do you spell that?
Liwcza.
And did you go to school at all in the Ukraine?
No,
When did you start going to school?
I went to school in Germany.
And what year was that?
That was 1944.
And how did you go from being in the Ukraine to being in Germany?
Well, we were the Second World War, the earliest, and then when the Russians were moving through Ukraine, the Germans took us along with their retreat. There was my mom and my brothers, except for my brother Zygmunt.
Did you guys go to Germany voluntarily, or did they make you?
Well, it's sort of semi-voluntarily, because they give us a choice, since my dad was in Germany already, and my mom spoke German, so they treated us fairly decent.
So what became of your farm?
Well, we left it, and then the Polish partisans burned the house. We found out about it from my aunt, so we didn't see no reason to go back. We didn't have anything to go back to.
And you said that you had one brother that was captured by the Russians. Which brother was that?
Oh, and my oldest brother John.
And what had happened to him?
He served 5 years in Siberia.
In the labor camp, or?
We got to have labor camps over there.
And what happened to him?
Well, so far I know, he was still alive. We heard about 5, maybe 6 years ago. But since then we haven't heard anything about him.
And you said you went to school in Germany. What grade did you start school?
Well, I started when I was 8 years old. I was in about 2nd grade.
And how long did you go to school in Germany?
Not too long, maybe a couple of years. Then the British coming was in northern Germany, and it took us to a displaced person camp.
And you told me before a story about when you were in school, and the class, they would have you say Heil Hitler.
Yes, it was demanded from every student to get up and say Heil Hitler if somebody would come into class other than the teacher.
And what did you do?
I stood up, but I never said Heil Hitler.
And what you told me a story about that. What did they tell you?
Well, they said I had to say it, but they said I'm not a German, so I'm not obligated to say Heil Hitler.
And how long did you stay in Germany?
Well, I stayed till 1956, I believe.
So how old were you?
I was 20 years old.
And what kind of things did you do in Germany?
Well, besides going to school, mainly lived with my parents and worked on farm.
But you had some other jobs you told me about, where you worked at a motorcycle factory.
Yes, I worked motorcycle factory and bicycle factory.
And you took a ship from Germany?
Yes, ship we took in Bremerhaven to New York,
Well, what city in New York did you land in?
New York City.
And what was that like, seeing New York City?
It looked pretty strange, the skyscrapers and everything.
You'd never seen
buildings that tall.
And where did you go from New York?
I stayed with my cousin, lived in New York, Great Neck, Long Island.
And how long did you stay there?
We stayed about a year till we left for New Mexico.
Why did you go to New Mexico of all
Because
places?
my sister lived there.
Oh,
Things that happened so fast, but anyway, I opened up a sandwich shop next to the city park
in Colorado?
in New Mexico. And then that's where Mom and me met. Because behind me there was a putt-putt golf. Her cousin and her decided to come over and play putt-putt golf and stopped by to buy a sandwich, taking a break, and that's when we met, and Mom and me. Then afterwards we got married.
How long?
It was 1960, about June, I believe.
How long after you guys met did you get married?
Well, we got married about 6 months later.
And what about your brother that came here with you? Do you do you know where he is?
He's in New York, so we hardly ever hear from him.
And your sister, what
My
about?
sister, she was living in Ohio and close New Mexico for a while, and then we lost contact. I don't know where she's at.
So you have no idea where she is?
No,
And she hasn't contacted you?
no.
And what about your family in the Ukraine? You haven't heard anything from them for how long?
Oh, and my mom was alive. She heard from her sister. That's how we found out where my oldest brother was at.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Michael Autolushin.
And where were you born?
I was born in Ukraine,
What year?
1936. I remember my parents, my brothers,